And then we could almost, just while the paint is fading from the brush, just put in a little more subtle indication of white water off in the distance as well. So I think we're almost there now. I just want to include the people here on this section. But actually, before I do that, I do want to just pull out that little highlight I mentioned in here. I might even add a little bit of that there. So okay, now it's time for the people, I think. And to do that, I think we'll start as we began. So I'm going back to my watercolour marker here, and I'm not going to do too many of these, but I do want a sense of scale in the painting. So what I'm going to do is just, using the fine nib, just pop in some simple silhouettes. That I can add to in just a moment, and I can also start to indicate a little bit of a reflection there. I think, to be honest, those three will probably do. I'm tempted, although I am tempted to put a couple here. Perhaps I'll put a couple more down here. Let's make these guys ever so slightly bigger. That works quite well, I think, but at the moment these silhouettes are completely monotone, so I do need to add just some subtle hints of colour here and there. So going in with a small brush now, I'll give this person on the right a pale top and lighten their reflection correspondingly. And then let's have a touch of pale red. Well, not pale red, actually, quite bright red on the top here of this chap. And then I'll give him a rather muddier red reflection. Make this reflection pale as well. And we'll just add in a little touch of pale flesh colour. I mean, literally just a dot here and there, you know, to suggest that these are people. But I think for the moment we'll call that one finished. But what I do want to do is show you how I would frame the painting, because it's going to make quite a difference to this particular piece of work. I could also do with tidying up this horizon line a little bit as well. But yes, for the most part, that's that one done. Now, just before we finish, I wanted to show you the finished painting, or rather 3 different versions of that, on the website. So let me just type in Sidmouth in the keyword search here, and that will bring up all 3 of the images. So what I've done is I've taken the original painting and I have, here we go, I have framed it in 3 different ways. So let me just zoom in a little bit for you. There we go. So you can see that with this one, this is what I mentioned earlier in the video. I kind of trimmed off everything below where I had my hand. If you remember a few minutes ago, I cut out a lot of the foreground, so that gives a nice panoramic view. We'll have a closer look at that one in a moment. But then I also did two other versions. The first is pretty much a square aspect ratio, and the reason I decided in retrospect to include some of this foreground stuff was I really like this little window of wet sand here, this little almost semicircle in the bottom right hand corner. I really feel that adds something to the composition. And then finally I did a tall and narrow version that you can see here on the right. And all three of these I really like. So one of the great things, of course, with digital technology is you can create one painting but come up with three or more different versions to offer as prints. So let me click into this one. I just want to show you something really cool you can do here. So I've mentioned this first bit on previous videos, but you can move the cursor around and then say I want to look in close up at this part, click, and it will load the full resolution preview of the image. So you can really see in close detail the brushwork that I've used and the textures involved. Look at all the little lumps of paint you've got here. But then in addition to that, if you want to see how something would look on your wall, or how it would look framed, for example, I can say, well, okay, I'll go for a fairly big framed print. I can click here, and then I can see how that would look in relationship to a piece of furniture, or another piece of furniture. Or I can get a close-up look. There's my little signature there of the corner of the frame. And again, there are objects here, so you get a sense of scale. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this video. So I hope you really enjoyed this one. Thanks very much for watching. If you're new here, please remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. But in the meantime, I hope to see you next Sunday for the next episode of The Sunday Art Show. Thanks again for watching.